I disagree. I think Chelsea are in a rebuild, and what happened is they were literally last season thinking they're done the rebuild phase and they've won the Champions League and they're going to push on to win the league. And in a year's time, they've sold the majority of their depth is gone. A lot of players have run out of contract. They've lost players on a free, and now they're back. Now they're back where they were when Lampard got hired, almost where they might be in
Whoa,
the.
But do you think that they?
whoa,
Let me just ask you
whoa.
this, Egal, before
I
you
really
change over
do
to this.
think. I really do think Chelsea are in a top four race next season. That is just my opinion. But hey,
Back to where we were with Lampard.
But do you think that they
no.
foreseen this?
I'm not saying Thomas Tuchel's Lampard. I'm saying the squad in the position where you're going to be fighting for next season is going to be similar to what Lampard.
Egal, let me ask you this. Do you think that they had foreseen this last summer when they were buying Lukaku and they were in a great position going into that transfer window and starting the season? This is before the war with Ukraine and Russia started, where their owner was forced to sell their club. Do you think that they would have predicted that they would have been in this rebuild now this summer? No, I don't think this is I don't call this a rebuild. Genuinely, I think them getting rid of Lukaku for a year is definitely going to do them more good than negatives.
They are in a rebuild. They are in a rebuild because they need to get defenders, they need midfielders, and their attack needs to be reshuffled. The only position that they have secured right now is who? Their goalkeeper. They have one center back who they can rely on. They don't even have two good center backs at this moment in time. Azpilicueta, he's getting old. When it comes to the midfield, Conte's getting a little bit older. Jorginho is still there. Kovacic is still there. Their attack, we know their attack has been shaky this whole time. Besides Mason Mount and Kai Havertz, no one else has been consistent. So when it comes down to it, Chelsea are actually in a much more dangerous position than they were a year ago. A year ago, they thought Lukaku was the final piece of the puzzle. Now they're looking at their whole squad. They're saying we need overhauling in many different areas.
Yeah, because
are you guys saying you need an overhaul?
First of all, before so much wrong with what you just said. First of all, right, just because you think that you're in a position, if your thinking is wrong, it's wrong. It doesn't matter what you think. It was wrong, and very few people did. But I sat here and said we are not in that position where we think we should be challenging up here. But that's by the by, right? When you say we're in a rebuild, I agree. But there's a difference between our rebuild and your rebuild. Your rebuild is you're building up from 7th.
That doesn't change the point.
Up to 4th. Oh no, I'm saying in our absolute worst position, we're gonna finish 4th. Absolute worst. We had point. No, but we're not. No, but it wasn't even close last year.
Why are you so triggered? My point is that
my point is, Egal, you're saying we're going to be in a race for top 4, right?
That's what I'm saying.
For us to be in a race.
Would you have reacted this way if a Liverpool fan would have said you're in a rebuild? Because you proved Egal's right. He said that you're in a rebuild and you agreed, and that's the point, right?
It annoys me because people.
It annoys you because Egal said it.
No, it annoys me because when we are losing,
because you went straight into it's not the same as our rebuild.
Let me explain why it annoys me. It annoys me because people are there like, oh, you're losing so many players and this, that, and the other, and it's like. Rudiger, I fully agree with. I didn't want to lose him, but he's gone. Christensen out the door. Do you think I care? Aspie leaving. How many times have I come on this show and said Aspie needs to stop playing because unless he's playing right centre back, I don't want to see it. Right?
1 second.
We have enough. There are enough players out there for us not to worry.
This will determine
even with our dead squad.
Just because you're in a rebuild doesn't mean you got to be worried.
An absolute worst.
David, you're going 100 miles a minute. How many players do you think you need to compete? If you need more than 4 or 5,
compete for a league, like 6.
Okay, so that's a rebuild. You need 6 players to improve your team. That is a rebuild.
I agree. No, I agree with a rebuild. But your point is that you said we're in a rebuild for top, and we're going to be in a race for top 4. We're going to be in a rebuild, but we're not going to be in a race for top 4. Those two things can like exist, but not coexist.
So where are you finishing next year?
Why you finish that without like?
I'm saying next year we finish 3rd. Next year, as of today, we finish 3rd.
Okay, interesting.
You found out, man. You just got triggered for the Arsenal.
I disagree. I don't think you guys finished 3rd.
I don't either personally. But
I don't think you guys finished 3rd.
I think if we didn't have half the season where we had no owner and half of fans weren't allowed in the stadium, and this, that, and the
You
other.
guys said
I
it
think we
wasn't
would have done a little bit
affecting you,
better.
though.
I think we would have done a
During
little
the
bit better.
season, you guys said it didn't affect you guys.
But
Yes, I think everything.
yeah, and that was
the
and we were wrong. And we were
the
wrong.
worst case scenarios has come to fruition.
And we
The
were
worst
wrong.
case scenario has come to fruition at Chelsea, where the ownership change has now put a ripple effect throughout the whole the whole group, and now their scouting department, everything else that they're going to be changing could affect their summer this season, and that's also going to affect them, and we're not thinking about that also.
We're 2 weeks in. You can't even say that.
Do you know what I find interesting is this? There's two things. I get where Egal is coming from here, but there are other sides to this, and I want to play devil's advocate here. All the attackers they're looking to sell, output-wise, shit. So whoever they bring in, they're either going to be as crap, meaning they can come third again, or better, right? Like there's no cap. I remember when Alexis Sanchez left Man United, and at the time we were promoting a young player from the academy who I'm just not mentioning his name anymore. And everyone's like, oh, it might be too much. What if he flops as well? It's like, bruv, Alexis Sanchez scored 5 goals in 18 months. As long as he scores 5 goals in 18 months, he's done as well as Alexis Sanchez, right? So there's that. Plus, just needing 4 or 5 players don't mean... Does City need a rebuild, in your opinion, Egal?
Say it again?
Does City need a rebuild?
No, they just won the league.
They're buying 5 players this summer.
Because they're a well-run club. But they don't need to.
But then they do need to. This is the one thing.
Because they need to win the Champions League. They're doing this to win the Champions League. It's not to win the Premier League.
My point was not only because he needed 5 players. I asked him, how many players do you think you need? And my point was, because you need so many players to fill holes in your starting 11, hence you are currently in a transition period.
I get that. I'm making a point here. I think Chelsea, of course, got lots going on, lots of transitions at the club. But if you actually listen to the reports, is that they're actually going to give a lot of the... It hasn't all come out in the wash yet, but I get the feeling that a lot of the issues with Marina, etc., is that the new owners want to back what Tuchel wants, where Marina and co are like, well, this is what Chelsea want to do. And I think that that's actually a good thing for Chelsea fans. They're going to give the manager what he wants. But my point is more, rebuilds for me are more a cultural thing from top to bottom, changing mentality, changing the way you play, changing. Board members changing doesn't necessarily mean cultural change per se. They're keeping the same manager, they're keeping the same coaching staff, they're keeping the same ethos on the training ground. I think rebuild just being based on buying 5 or 6 players doesn't necessarily mean you're rebuilding and constructing everything. They're gonna come into a playing scenario which is very good. The thing about Todd Boehly, yes, they're making changes, but he isn't renowned for running sports clubs, sports franchises, whatever the phrase you want to use. He's not renowned for like running them badly. If you get where I'm coming from, it isn't like suddenly they've gone, right, Marina's going and Woodward's taking over. That would make them panic. I do get your point, though. There's a lot of transition going on, but I don't necessarily think needing 5 or 6 players is that issue, because City are looking at Cucurella, they're looking at Phillips. They've already signed 2 strikers, and now they're looking at João Felix. Like they don't need a rebuild. They just need to improve their squad again. And clubs should always be looking to. I think on average, top 6 clubs on average buy and sell about 8 players combined each summer. You don't rebuild every summer. Like that's my kind of point. I think it gets watered down too simplistically.
Are they, Terry? Yes or no? Are they in a rebuild?
Rebuild for what are they rebuilding?
Are they rebuilding to try to get to the top of the table and win the Premier League?
I don't think they're rebuilding. I think they're adding. And they're moving out some players that aren't good enough, and they're adding some players to it. The system isn't going to change. Training isn't going to change. The ethos at the club isn't going to change. There's no sign that their mentality is changing. How they go about things. So the club isn't just going to throw good money after bad anymore. They're going to be more prudent. I think they're going to be a little bit more economical in how they do things, but that doesn't mean cheap. So rebuild for me, I don't think is the right word for it. They are doing what City and Liverpool are doing on a slightly lesser scale. They're adding better quality to what they've already got. And they've already got a team that got to the final of the League Cup, final of the FA Cup, should have knocked Real Madrid out of the Champions League and finished 3rd after having a quote-unquote bad season. Chelsea, for me, are not in a dire position where the club's falling down around them. Maybe the complete opposite. Maybe they're going to be run a little bit more efficiently now. Chelsea are a dark horse for me.
I think you're saying rebuild, but you're using 100 words to explain the exact same.
I don't think.
Oh, go ahead, Patrick. Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I was going to say I don't think Chelsea in a rebuild. That's a bit far fetched. But what I will say is that Terry, with your point about they bring in these players, and if they're not any worse, they still may finish 3rd. I don't know if that's true, because Tottenham and Arsenal will definitely improve. There's no doubt about that. Man United will improve as well. I can't see United getting any worse. So if Chelsea are stuttering and stammering like they did from the second half of the season, then for me, they're in trouble. So this whole like nonchalant attitude of Chelsea fans saying, yeah, we're definitely going to finish in the top 4. I don't know where that's coming from, because they only finished 3 points above us and we were awful for half the season. Arsenal, they're 5 points ahead if they only finish 3 points ahead of us. And Arsenal will definitely get better with the signings they brought in. So unless Chelsea do bring in some quality, they will be in trouble. Let's just be real.
They will, but they will bring in some quality. I mean, in my opinion, they're going to bring in Raheem Sterling. Raheem Sterling is one of the best attackers in the league. Like, he really is. We're all talking about Antony's and Rafinha's and the like. Raheem Sterling's better than all of them.
Definitely.
So if they bring him in, that's different. Now, the Dembele deal's a weird one for me because the guy's legs are made of breadsticks. Do you know what I mean? Like, ability-wise, he's one of the best inside forwards in the world, wingers in the world, whatever people want to say. But they're going to bring in some quality, Chelsea. I can't imagine this, like, the best quality player they buy is like Ollie Watkins. Like, I'm just throwing that name out there. I can't imagine Chelsea. If they do that, I'll change my entire thought process. But Chelsea will buy quality players, and they've still got Thomas Tuchel. This man has been the manager in a year.
Well, the only thing I will say is that they have to figure out the attack, and I'm not sure it's just because they don't have good players. I think that there's something not right with the way that they're playing. That's just my one thing. Tuchel has to figure out the attack. That's always been kind of like there's something there. I know they scored more goals than us. Not saying that we have a better attack or anything like that, but in comparison to Liverpool and Man City, who are scoring like 100 goals a season, they do need to improve it. And I don't really see Ziyech, Pulisic, all these players. I know that we're saying that they're bad, but ultimately I also think Tuchel needs to work on the attack.
Especially the Yank.
I don't think that Sterling goes there and scores more goals than he's doing at City. He could score less.
That's interesting.
I think he could because he'll probably be playing every single game. He won't be involved in Pep Roulette.
Every single striker or attacker that you guys have go there are worse than from where they came. So there's something wrong. Yeah, I think so.
That's not true.
Who got better? Who's playing better and scoring more goals than they did?
Well, like if you look in like recent history, Costa got better. Hazard.
No, I'm talking about now when
if we're talking about last year, then like no, innit? Because that was bad.
But so that's my point. That's my point there is that I don't think Sterling comes in and scores more goals. There's something up there with the system. Something needs to change in regards to that. There's still midfield questions. Who are you guys going to bring in midfield? Who are you guys going to? You have 3 defenders that you need to, bring in or something like that. So that's all I'm saying. There's a lot to do. I'm not saying you guys are going to slide. I'm just saying there's nothing set. There's nothing definitive there.
Of course, there's nothing definitive. But what I'll say is this, though, and there's a super chat here that says our attack's been struggling since DM needed. And I think a midfielder is definitely needed at Chelsea. But equally, the one common denominator, and something I've always bemoaned about Chelsea, is not buying players that suit the manager and or his system. Jose moaned about it. Conte moaned about it. Sarri moaned about it. Lampard kind of didn't, but he just wasn't a good enough manager. And even Tuchel, got to defend him here a little bit. Yes, they went and signed Lukaku, but he wasn't the kind of player that he needed. Almost within a couple of months of being here, the interview, like, you're not paying to my straight and all of this. That was, for me, a Roman signing to try and bring him back, not a Tuchel signing. And that's why I think Todd Bowley's come in and said, no, we're going to buy the players that Thomas Tuchel needs to get the very best out of his system. And you are right, they need to solve that attacking situation, but they create the chances that the movement is there for me, or they create the phases to create the chances. But it's going to be interesting. I think they're going to spend some big money. There's no doubt.